My name is Natalie Kingsley. I'm 36 years old. And I used to believe that if you didn't scream, you didn't break. I was wrong. Sometimes the moment your life splits down the middle doesn't come with a slammed door or shattered glass. Sometimes it happens over dinner, over warm food, clinking forks, and a sentence said too casually to be anything but practiced. I'd been married to Cole Kingsley for 8 years. He was 34, charming in a clean-cut way, the kind of man who could shake your dad's hand and make him feel like they'd known each other forever. We weren't the couple that fought in public or posted cheesy captions online. We were private, steady, the kind of relationship people called real. And for a long time, I thought that was the same thing as safe. The trouble didn't start with me. It started with Derek Vaughn, Cole's best friend since college. Derek had been family to us for years. He'd been at our wedding. He'd sat at my table on holidays. He'd helped Cole move our couch up 2 flights of stairs and complained the whole time like it was a love language. 6 months ago, Derek's wife, Lila, found out he'd been sleeping with a coworker. Not once, not a drunken slip, a pattern, a second life. The fallout was exactly what you'd expect. Screaming, crying, lawyers, Lila moving into her sister's place, people picking sides, Derek insisting he made a mistake while still trying to sound like the victim. It was ugly. The part that wasn't standard was Cole. From the second the affair came out, he defended Derek like it was his job. He'd bring it up at random times, while brushing his teeth, while loading the dishwasher, while I was half asleep, like he couldn't stand to let the world judge Derek without making sure his version was heard. At first, I assumed it was loyalty, guys protecting guys, old friendships, blind spots. But then came last Tuesday. We were having dinner at home. Nothing special, just roasted chicken. The kind of meal you make when you're tired, but still trying to pretend the week hasn't already beaten you. The kitchen light made everything look softer than it was. Cole sat across from me, stabbing at his food like he was mad at the plate. He brought Derek up again. Lila's being dramatic, he said, like it was fact. She's acting like Derek murdered someone. I kept my voice calm. He cheated on her for months, Cole. So? He said it too fast, too sharp. I paused with my fork halfway to my mouth. So, that ends marriages. Cole leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing, like I was the naive one. People make mistakes. Relationships are complicated. Mistakes don't last 6 months, I said. Mistakes don't have hotel receipts. He laughed, one short, humorless sound. God. Women love turning everything into a moral performance. That landed wrong, not just because it was sexist, because it sounded personal. I put my fork down carefully. You're taking this weirdly hard. I'm being realistic, he snapped. Derek works all the time. Lila's cold. He felt unwanted. You don't know what it's like to be a man in a marriage where your needs don't matter. My stomach tightened. His needs don't justify cheating. Cole's jaw flexed. I'm saying men have needs. Emotional, physical. And women act shocked when men look elsewhere like it's some crime against humanity. I stared at him. The air in the kitchen felt thinner, like someone had quietly closed a door. You think women should just accept it? I asked. Cole shrugged, stabbing his chicken again. I think women should stop acting like victims. If a man isn't getting what he needs at home, it's not crazy that he finds it somewhere else. My skin went cold. It wasn't just what he said. It was how confident he was saying it, like he'd rehearsed these lines in his head, like he'd been waiting for someone, me, to challenge him so he could finally perform his philosophy. You don't end the relationship first? I asked, slower now. You communicate. You go to therapy. You leave. Cole rolled his eyes like I'd said something cute. That's such typical female thinking. You want everything to be feelings and conversations and accountability. Men are simple. If we're neglected, we fix it. By cheating, I said. By surviving, he corrected, voice rising. Women act like they own men, like marriage is a cage where you can starve someone and still demand loyalty. There it was. That word, starve, like he'd been hungry and angry for a long time. I watched him, really watched him. The way his hand tightened around his fork, the way he avoided my eyes when he spoke, then looked at me like I was the enemy when I pushed back. And suddenly little things that I'd filed under nothing started crawling out of the dark. The new gym membership he'd never invited me to join. The late lift sessions he claimed were group workouts. The way he'd started taking his phone into the bathroom, face down like a secret. The cologne that appeared on his dresser one morning, and his casual, "Oh, Derek gave it to me," like gifts just happen. I felt the shift inside me, not anger, not panic. Something quieter. something that locked into place. So cheating is justified if you're lonely, I said. Cole leaned forward, eyes hard. I'm saying women need to accept reality. Men have needs, and women should stop acting like it's a personal attack when those needs get met somewhere else. He said it like a sermon, like he believed it, like he'd been living it. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I smiled, polite, almost sweet. Interesting philosophy, I said. Cole blinked, thrown off. He expected a fight. He expected tears. He expected me to try to win. Instead, I picked up my fork again and took a bite like my world hadn't just cracked open. Cole looked satisfied, like he'd won the argument by exhausting me. He went back to eating. The tension left his shoulders. And that's when I knew something awful. He wasn't defending Derek. He was defending himself. After dinner, I cleared the plates without speaking. Cole went to the living room, turned on the TV, and laughed too loudly at something that wasn't funny, like he needed noise to drown out what he'd just revealed. I walked down the hallway into my home office and shut the door. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and stared at the screen like it might tell me what kind of woman I was supposed to be now. The trusting wife, the betrayed wife, the wife who fights, the wife who pretends. My hands were steady when I picked up my phone. I'd been avoiding this step for months because I didn't want to be the woman who needed proof, the woman who hired someone to follow her husband like a stranger. But Cole's speech made the decision easy. If he believed that passionately, that cheating was survival, then he wouldn't just defend it. He'd live it. The private investigator answered on the second ring. Professional, calm, the kind of voice that didn't judge you for calling. I gave him my name, Cole's name, our address. And when he asked when I wanted surveillance to begin, I heard myself say, Monday. When I hung up, the house felt the same. Warm lights, quiet humming appliances, the TV murmuring in the other room. But I didn't feel the same, because now I wasn't asking if Cole was cheating. I was waiting to find out who he'd decided he deserved. And in the strange stillness of that night, I had the first foreshadowing thought that would haunt me later. If he can justify betrayal this easily, what else can he justify when he gets desperate? I turned off the office light, walked back into the living room, and sat beside my husband like nothing had changed. Cole didn't notice the difference. But the truth was, something had already ended. He just didn't know it yet. 6 days. That was all it took. I'd expected weeks, months even. Some long, drawn-out process where doubt stretched until it became its own kind of torture. I'd prepared myself for that. I'd told myself I could handle waiting. But the truth doesn't always drag its feet. Sometimes it sprints. The investigator called me on a Thursday afternoon while I was at work. I recognized the number instantly. My heart didn't race when I answered. It slowed, like my body had already accepted what my mind was about to hear. We've got confirmation, he said, and documentation. I closed my office door. Okay, I said. My voice sounded steady. That surprised me. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't soften it either. He told me facts. Times, locations, patterns. He explained that Cole wasn't going to the gym alone. He wasn't doing late workouts or helping Derek through his divorce. He was meeting Renee Holloway, 28, certified personal trainer, worked evenings, same gym, same parking structure, same condo complex, 3 nights a week, sometimes more. 4 months. 4 months of choices. The investigator sent the files while we were still on the phone. Photos first, then timestamps, then a short video clip. Cole and Renee in the parking garage, his hand at the small of her back, her laugh frozen mid-motion like proof that happiness doesn't care who it costs. I thanked him, hung up, and then I just sat there. I'd imagined I would break when it happened, that the confirmation would crack something open inside me. Rage, sobbing, nausea. People talk about betrayal like it's explosive. But this wasn't an explosion. It was gravity. Everything fell into place with a heavy, quiet certainty. Every late night, every distracted answer, every time I'd asked, "Are you okay?" and he'd said, "Just tired," like exhaustion was the only acceptable truth. I didn't confront him. That part surprises people when they hear the story later. They imagine screaming matches, thrown phones, dramatic ultimatums. I did none of that. Instead, I called a divorce lawyer. Top-rated, expensive, the kind of man whose receptionist asked for my full name twice and didn't rush me once. I forwarded the evidence before our first meeting. When we sat down, he reviewed it carefully, then leaned back in his chair with something like approval. "This is clean," he said. "Unpleasant, but clean." "It's a no-fault state," I said. "I know that." He nodded. "You'll still split assets, but adultery affects credibility. especially when paired with his own statements defending infidelity. I thought of Cole at the dinner table. Men have needs. Good, I said. He smiled thinly. You're calm. That helps. I wasn't calm. I was focused. We filed the paperwork the next morning. It cost me $450, less than a weekend getaway, less than the lie he'd been living. The lawyer warned me it would take a few days to process, that Cole wouldn't be served immediately. He also told me something I held on to like armor. Do not confront him emotionally. He will try to control the narrative. Let the facts do the talking. Cole made that easy. Over the next few days, he grew louder about Derek's divorce. Defensive, performative. He called friends, talked over dinner, ranted on speakerphone like he was auditioning for sympathy. Thursday night, we went to his parents' house. I considered not going, but something in me knew. I needed witnesses. We sat at the same dining table where we'd celebrated holidays for nearly a decade. His mother served pot roast. His father poured wine. Normalcy pressed in from all sides, daring me to pretend. And then, right on cue, Derek came up. I just think Lila's being unreasonable, Cole said, shaking his head. Derek apologized. He wants to work on things, but she's too stubborn. His father frowned. Cheating's a deal breaker, Cole. That's old-fashioned, Cole snapped. People make mistakes. Mistakes don't last months, his mother said quietly. Cole looked irritated now, like the audience wasn't following the script. Men have needs, he said. Women need to stop acting like betrayal is the end of the world. I felt my pulse in my ears. I set my fork down. So men should just cheat, I said calmly. And women should accept it. Cole shot me a look. You know what I mean. No, I said. Say it again. Exactly how you said it at home. His jaw tightened. Men have emotional and physical needs. If women can't meet them, they shouldn't be surprised when men look elsewhere. There it was, the line, delivered confidently, like truth. Interesting, I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. Cole's mother watched me. His father frowned, confused. I opened the folder, tapped once, then slid the phone across the table, face up, toward his father. The first photo was unmistakable. Cole and Renee, kissing, his hand on her hip, her back pressed against his car. The room went silent. His mother gasped. His father's face flushed red. What is this? Cole demanded, standing halfway out of his chair. Proof, I said, that you practice what you preach. I swiped to the next photo, then the next. Entrance to her building. Time-stamped. Repeated dates. 4 months, I added. 3 times a week, sometimes more. Cole lunged for the phone. I pulled it back. You've been spying on me? He shouted. I hired a licensed investigator, I said evenly, after your passionate defense of infidelity. I figured if you believed it that strongly, you might be living it. His mother looked like she might cry. His father stared at him like he'd never seen him before. This is out of context, Cole stammered. What context makes 4 months of cheating acceptable? I asked. What context makes lying to your wife justified? I pulled an envelope from my bag and placed it gently on the table. But don't worry, I said. I took your advice. I accepted it. I stood. These are divorce papers. I've already filed. I didn't wait for a response. I thanked his parents for dinner, walked out the front door, and drove home with my hand steady on the wheel. Cole came back 2 hours later. I was in the garage, working on my motorcycle. The smell of oil and metal grounded me. My sanctuary. 3 years of weekends and patience, piece by piece. He burst in like a storm. We need to talk. All communication goes through my lawyer now, I said, adjusting the carburetor. You can't just divorce me, he said. You're overreacting. I didn't look at him. You said women should accept it. I made a mistake, he pleaded. It didn't mean anything. Then you won't mind the divorce, I said. He tried tears next, then blame, then rage. I kept working. Finally, I said, get out of the garage. He slammed the door behind him. I heard him on the phone minutes later, probably calling Renee or Derek or anyone who'd tell him he wasn't the villain. I went back to the bike. I had a feeling it wasn't just a project anymore. I had a feeling it was about to become a battleground. Cole didn't collapse the way guilty people do in movies. He adapted. By Monday morning, he was served. By Monday afternoon, he was already rewriting the story. He sent me a text first, short, clipped, carefully worded like he'd already practiced it in front of a mirror. We need to talk like adults. You're making a huge mistake. I didn't respond. My lawyer told me not to. Told me silence would bother him more than any argument ever could. Cole proved him right. Within 48 hours, the counterfiling arrived. Thick, aggressive, almost theatrical in its demands. He wanted the house, purchased during our marriage, valued at $420,000, with $190,000 still owed. He wanted his SUV, but with me responsible for half the payments. He wanted half my retirement accounts, half my pension. He wanted spousal support for 3 years. And then I laughed. Because at the bottom of the list, tucked in like an afterthought, was my motorcycle. The same bike he'd called my midlife crisis project. The one he'd complained about every time I disappeared into the garage for a weekend. The one he'd rolled his eyes at when I talked about torque ratios and original parts. Now suddenly, it was something he had deep emotional attachment to. My lawyer didn't look amused. He can ask for anything, he said. Doesn't mean he'll get it. But the bike? I asked. He nodded slowly. That one's tricky. You restored it during the marriage. Technically, that can be considered marital labor. I felt something sharp twist in my chest. Not panic, but anger. Cold and precise. That bike was mine before him, I said. Before the wedding. Then we prove it. Cole's lawyer sent over a list of my supposed failures as a wife. I worked too much. I was emotionally distant. I prioritized hobbies over my marriage. Translation, I didn't orbit him. According to his narrative, my independence had pushed him away. My motorcycle made him feel neglected. My boundaries made him lonely. My refusal to indulge his entitlement made his affair understandable. My lawyer sent back the PI report. All of it. Photos, videos, timelines. And a transcript of Cole's own words, his speech about men's needs and women accepting infidelity, recounted by his parents in sworn statements. Cole's lawyer went quiet after that. Cole did not. That's when the smear campaign started. He called my sister first, then my mother, then mutual friends. He told them I was controlling, that I isolated him, that I tracked his movements, that hiring a PI was basically stalking. My sister called me that night. Natalie, she said carefully, he's saying some concerning things. He cheated on me for 4 months, I said. I have proof. There was a pause, then a sigh. Yeah, she said. That tracks. He always needed to be the victim. My mother took longer. She'd already heard his version by the time she called. Her voice was cautious, wounded. He says you won't even consider counseling. Mom, I said quietly, he cheated on me with his personal trainer. I have photos. Silence stretched. Oh, she finally whispered. Oh my. He's projecting, I said. Just, please don't let him poison the well. I won't, she said. What do you need? Nothing. I just needed the truth to exist somewhere outside my own head. Cole tried it with friends next. Vague social media posts about learning who your real allies are and surviving emotional abuse. Half the people believed him. Half asked me what happened. I told the truth. I lost some friends. I kept the ones who mattered. Then he escalated. 2 weeks after being served, Cole filed for a restraining order. He claimed I was unstable, that I frightened him, that he feared for his safety. Based on what? Me working in my own garage when he came home. Me refusing to argue. Me leaving his parents' house instead of screaming. The hearing was quick. The judge read his petition, then read my lawyer's response, complete with the PI evidence. Do you have any evidence of threats or violence? The judge asked Cole. He's been cold, Cole said. Distant. That is not a threat, the judge replied. That is someone processing a divorce. Cole tried again. She hired someone to follow me. A licensed investigator, the judge said, to document suspected infidelity, which was confirmed. That is not illegal. Cole had nothing. Request denied. Outside the courthouse, he tried to approach me. My lawyer stepped between us. All communication through counsel, he said firmly. This is ridiculous, Cole yelled. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I said. 4 months of them. That's when Derek appeared. The same Derek who started this entire chain reaction. He stormed across the parking lot like a man who'd lost everything and decided to blame the nearest woman. You're destroying him over one mistake, he shouted. Women are impossible. Men have needs. Security escorted him away. The irony felt almost scripted. That night, I went home alone. I stood in my garage, looking at the motorcycle under its cover. The weight of it, the years of work, the patience, the discipline. Cole wanted to take it because he couldn't stand that there was something in my life that didn't revolve around him. And that told me everything I needed to know. The war wasn't over, but I was done explaining myself. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. People like to imagine closure as a clean moment. Papers signed, doors closed, lessons neatly learned. The truth is messier. By the time the judge's ruling came down, I was exhausted in a way sleep doesn't fix. Not shattered, not broken. Just spent. Here's how it shook out. The house went to Cole. On paper, it made sense. We'd bought it during the marriage. It was valued at $420,000, with $190,000 still owed. Cole made less than I did, $52,000 to my $89,000, and the judge ruled he could keep it if he refinanced and paid me out my equity. $95,000 within 6 months. If he failed, the house would be sold and the proceeds split. I moved out 2 months before the final ruling. I didn't fight for the house. I didn't want it. I wanted peace more than square footage. I rented a smaller place across town. Quiet, clean, mine. The car stayed with him. He assumed the loan. I was removed within 60 days, or it would be repossessed and sold. I didn't care either way. Retirement was next. Cole asked for half. The judge gave him 30% of what was earned during the marriage. Not nothing, but not the windfall he'd demanded. The judge noted the adultery didn't change the law, but it did affect credibility. Spousal support landed at $850 a month for 18 months. Less than half of what Cole wanted. The judge made it clear. Cole was employed, capable, and not entitled to be carried. Then came the motorcycle. Cole's lawyer argued it was marital property, that I'd poured time and labor into it during the marriage, that Cole had emotional attachment. My lawyer stood and presented receipts, every part I'd purchased, dated, photos of the frame and engine, bought 2 months before the wedding, logs of work done before I ever wore a ring. Cole had never cared about the bike until it had a price tag. The judge didn't hesitate. The motorcycle was initiated prior to the marriage, he said. The wife invested her personal labor and time into a project she began independently. The husband showed no interest until divorce proceedings. The motorcycle remains her sole property. Cole's face when the judge said that. I won't pretend it healed everything, but it helped. Cole considered appealing. His lawyer talked him out of it. You'll lose, I heard later, and you'll pay her legal fees. The final cost to me, $95,000 in house equity, less than ideal but acceptable. $15,300 in spousal support over 18 months. Roughly $38,000 from my retirement. $12,000 in legal fees. It could have been worse. It could have been better. But I kept the bike, and I kept myself. Through the grapevine, I heard how Cole was doing. Not great. The mortgage strained him immediately. $200 a month doesn't stretch far on $52,000 a year. He tried to get roommates, tried to sell furniture, tried to pretend everything was fine. Renee, the trainer, stopped returning his calls once the divorce went public. Turns out being the other woman loses its charm when your name might show up in court transcripts. Derek finalized his own divorce not long after. Lost his house, lost custody time, lost credibility. His affair partner didn't stick around either. Patterns have consequences. Cole's parents barely speak to him now. His father stopped calling altogether. His mother checks in occasionally, but their relationship is strained. Parents don't love it when you cheat, lie, and then try to play the victim. Cole's dating again. I saw it online. Some new woman, some staged smiles. Good for him, truly. Not my problem. Me? I'm okay. Not amazing, not devastated. Just okay. I finished the motorcycle a week after the divorce finalized. Took it out on a long ride. No destination, just movement. Wind cutting through noise I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Freedom feels quieter than people expect. Someone at a vintage show offered me $22,000 for the bike. I said no. That bike represents 3 years of my life. Every bolt, every wire, every stubborn problem solved without anyone else's permission. It's not for sale. I started seeing someone new. Not serious, not rushed. He thinks the bike is impressive, asks questions, doesn't call it a phase or a crisis. That's refreshing. Cole texts occasionally from unknown numbers. I don't respond. It's usually about the house, sometimes an apology disguised as explanation. The last message came 3 days ago. I hope you're happy. You got everything you wanted, your bike, your freedom, your ego intact. I hope it was worth destroying our marriage. I didn't reply. But if I had, I would have said this. You destroyed the marriage. I documented it and left. There's a difference. Divorce is expensive in ways no one warns you about. Even when you're right. Even when you have proof. Even when you do everything by the book. It costs sleep, trust, a version of the future you once believed in. But staying would have cost more. So here's what I learned. Trust your gut. When something feels off, it usually is. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. Cole told me at the dinner table. I just didn't understand yet. Document everything. The PI cost me $2,800. Best money I ever spent. Get a good lawyer. Mine protected my assets and my sanity. And having standards isn't cruelty. Expecting fidelity isn't unreasonable. Leaving when trust is broken isn't overreacting. Cole still believes I gave up too easily. He still tells people I'm the villain. That's fine. I don't need everyone to understand. I just need to sleep at night knowing I respected myself enough to walk away. The motorcycle sits in my living room now. Climate controlled, locked building, safe. Some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth walking away from. Knowing the difference? That's the hardest part. But I know it now. And that's enough.